Thank you very much. Ambassador, thank you. Sorry we were at other hearings
I understand.
before we got here, but I'm glad I got here in time to just share a few thoughts with you. I'm one of those 13 of my colleagues in the Senate who encouraged the President to work actively towards the development of a job-oriented policy and export promotion effort to help us in our challenges here at home. And, you know, I know that certainly USTR is going to play an important role through the NEI, and I look forward to that. And I wanted to explore that with you a little bit, but I know there's another topic that's risen here which I didn't intend to raise, but I feel compelled to do so. And that is, you know, as we promote our trade and want to reduce barriers across the globe and want to pursue the opportunity for the export of U.S. goods and services to other countries in the world that will create jobs here, all of which I'm for. I am concerned, however, that there are certain standards. For example, I would assume that we want to largely deal with countries who observe the rule of law so that when we have a contract, we can have that contract observed. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, sir.
I would assume that we largely want to deal with any market as long as that market is someone who pays at the end of the day, whether that be an individual, company, or a government. If there's a history of non-payment, would that be a concern to us?
I think that's fair to say. That's something we would look at.
And then finally, I often believe that, and some disassociate this pillar of foreign diplomacy, but I often believe that human rights and democracy is something that we cannot necessarily be blind to in our trade engagements. And all of those things bring me to the question of Cuba. Rule of law is certainly not something that exists. The difficulty, if you have any type of agreement and that agreement breaks apart, is not quite enforceable under the situation in Cuba. So I always say to people, you have to think about where any part of the world where your agreements are going to be enforced. Secondly, you know, if you look at the Paris Debtor Club, Cuba has defaulted in billions of dollars on obligations that it has, and so I get concerned about that. And thirdly, I am clearly concerned about the nature of human rights and democracy. The most recent being the death of an individual on a hunger strike who was being abused in Castro's jails and was there in the first place simply because he sought to speak out and create peaceful change in his country. And he died at the hands of his jailers as a result of their ultimate abuse and the abuse that he was protesting that led him to the hunger strike. So that, unfortunately, is not an isolated incident. That is an example of hundreds of individuals who Amnesty International recognizes as prisoners of conscience. And so when in our drive, which I share, for the purposes of opening up markets and creating greater opportunities for goods and services made in America or delivered by Americans abroad, I hope that it is not the policy of this administration to do so in the absence of understanding the human rights abuses that take place in those countries. And a country that most recently had the condemnation of the Organization of American States International Human Rights Division, and who also in the news was there about assisting individuals from the Basque region of Spain to go ahead and attempt to assassinate the Prime Minister. So I look at all of these things and I say there has to be a balance in how we pursue it. So I'd just like to get your response both to the role you see USTR playing in the NEI, and secondly, your observations about the situation as it relates to Cuba.
Senator, thank you for your comments. Let me try to address both briefly. And having worked in this bill, and 25 years ago as an aide to Senator Lloyd Benson, I certainly understand the pull on senators to be in one place, more than one place at one time. I will make sure you have a copy of our previous remarks, but I just wanted to note that in not only to praise the President's trade policy agenda, but my remarks, we specifically address and make it plain that a pillar of our trade policy and an underpinning of that is our commitment to the rule of law with all of our trading partners. And that's critical to maintaining a global rules-based trading system. And from the very beginning, the Obama administration has made it plain that we believe that one of the ways we can help to recalibrate and answer the cynicism among some Americans about the value proposition of our trade policy is that it has to reflect our values about human rights, the rights of workers and others. So I want to assure you that we won't compromise on those. Our role in the U.S. Export Initiative at USTR is to frankly continue to do what we do best. That's to create more market access for our exporters for the simple reason that we know that businesses that export more tend to grow faster, they create more jobs, they pay higher wages. So we will continue to focus on market access opening initiatives, whether it's trying to bring to conclusion the pending free trade agreements, whether it's bringing into reality the proposed, we think, exciting new Trans-Pacific partnership that would give us access to the fastest growing economic region in the world, and whether, frankly, it's through enforcing our rights. And when I came before this committee during my confirmation, one of the concerns I've raised is I think we've gotten to a point that we only look at trade ambassadors and measure us on whether or not we pass free trade agreements. But as so many of you have commented, much of what we lose is because we don't get access to the markets that we've agreed on. So our enforcement initiatives is not the United States trying to be heavy-handed, but it can be a critical component to us getting market access that we were promised in existing free trade agreements. In the case of Cuba, as you know, the President has explicitly addressed his belief that he would like to see us move beyond the point of this 50-year embargo, but that would be a measured approach. He did unilaterally offer, I think, the olive branch, if you will, in releasing the travel restrictions on families. But beyond that, and I think, Senator, even within the last 2 weeks, we had at least as high a level of delegation as we had from the Department of State that traveled and met with a delegation from Cuba to begin to address some of the other issues that you've laid out.
Well, I appreciate that. Let me just close by saying it's really, in my mind, untenable that a United States citizen has been arrested and detained for months without the ability until very late to get a consular visit and is detained for without any good reason, uncharged. You see, it's an example of, how a part of the process is how do you reward a country that detains your citizens, violates human rights, and is internationally in default on debt. I think it's not the best policy. If that's how we incentivize countries, we're definitely incentivizing them in the wrong direction. So I appreciate that. Look forward to continuing dialogue on that. And finally, in terms of new trade agreements, and I agree, you shouldn't be measured just simply by that. But there is one that I think I'd love to see us move. I think we're all on the beneficiary side of it for the most part, and that's the one with Panama, which has a good rule of law, has good labor rights, and seems to me is a perfect example of trying to begin to build, particularly in a hemisphere that should have some other opportunities as well. Thank you very much.